Hello and welcome. I'm back here today for the Jumpstart session here for SAP Datasphere. My name is Klaus-Peter Sauer and I work on the product management team for SAP Datasphere. But let's move to the keyboard. So today, that's a Jumpstart session. So this is basically a hands-on which you guys are doing on your own. And I give you an introduction with a few slides at the moment, at the beginning here. Show you what the exercises are about, where you find the different materials, the scripts, the files, whatever you need. And at the end, you will have a chance to ask questions, right? So feel free to already start posting your questions in the chat. I will see them over here in a minute then. So let's have a look at the exercises. So what the exercise is about, it's basically a retail transaction example, right? So there are a number of outlet stores of different locations in the United States. We have a file which provides transaction detailed data with store, sold products, sales manager, and different key figures and measures, right? Like revenue, cost, discount, profit, etc. The target of the solution of this exercise here is about 3 stories, so that you get out of the data a year-to-year sales comparison, sales per region, and if you want to, also the best sales representative. And in order to get there, you see the data model on the right hand side already here on the screen, right? So it's a simple data model. We provide the data for these tables: sales transactions, store, product, dimension, and sales manager as the dimension tables. You will also learn how to create the time dimension based on the space management on the system and connect that. And what you need for it is also files. I will show you where you find it. But let's come to the requirements first. So first and foremost, you need a Google Chrome browser. That's necessary. That's the supported browser we're using here. You need access to the GitHub repository. That's what you find here on the slide. You could also search for it here with TechEd 2023 and then the session ID, DA183v. And you get to the GitHub repository. Then, of course, you need a system where you actually do the hands-on. So in case you have a system somewhere at your company, feel free to use it. Get a dedicated space and you can do it. If you don't have access to a system, please feel free to sign up for what we call a guided experience trial system. Also, the steps are described in the GitHub repository, very, very detailed. I can also later show you then how the system looks like. And then last but not least, what you need from the GitHub repository is that zip file, which I linked here, which you also find on the requirements section in GitHub. So you simply click on that link, excuse me, you get a zip file, download it to your machine, and if you open and unpack the zip file, you will find 5 files in there, 4 CSV files, that's the data. You will, during the course of the exercise, upload those data sets to your data model. And the last one is a JSON file that's basically providing the entity relationship model for this particular exercise. If you want to use it, you don't have to create the tables yourself. You can use the ER model, import it, generate it, and deploy it, and you're ready to go. So let me get something to drink. So next part, exercises overall. So the way we designed this kind of exercise is that we have a fast track. So for anyone who's eager to finish early, get quickly through everything, use the fast track. If you want to get more in-depth on various additional topics, right, feel free to also do the optional exercises. And at the end, as I said at the beginning, there are reports. That's the target, that you get a visualization out of the data model which you created. So exercise 12, 13 and 14 with the dots, with the dotted line here, those are the reporting parts which you do in SAP Analytics Cloud, SAC. Also on the white box here on the bottom right, we have some exercises on the business layer. So if you want to do it, feel free. It's optional and it's only necessary if you really want to finish with exercise 14. If you are good to go with 13 and 12, also fine. So feel free to play around and you can do it in on your own pace. So what will you find in the different parts of the exercise? So the first part is structured with getting started. So you will find what I very quickly explained at the beginning, the overview of the exercise, the business scenario, the data model description in more detail than I put it here on the slides. And very important, if you don't have a system, that's where you also find access to your guided experience trial system. So it's a very detailed step-by-step description. You can follow it. You usually get within a few minutes the login credentials to your email account and then can actually use the system directly. Second part here is about your first logon. So what you will see when you first log into the system, how you navigate, what the different menu items mean, etc. We put a little explanation there. And the first real exercise part is exercise 2. That's where we explain about the space, and that's where you create that time dimension which I was talking about at the data model slide earlier, right? So that's the first mandatory part. The core part here of this overall exercise is about data modeling. So we create a simple data model with the 4 tables we saw earlier. And this is part 3. That's where you build up those data models, connect the dots on everything, and prepare the fact view and the analytical model so that you can subsequently create those stories in SAP Analytics Cloud. What you will also find in some of these exercises is a detour. So we built in the detour for everyone who wants to know a little more about the different artifacts here. I put an example on the slide. I hope it's somehow readable, but you will find it on GitHub where we explain what the different modeling artifacts are about, because we are not using everyone which is available in this exercise, only a few of them. And if you're interested, feel free to read through it. Otherwise, you can directly skip the detour and go to the exercise itself. So business layer, that's section 4 here, part 4. It's a completely optional part, as I mentioned at the beginning, so feel free to use it or leave it. SAP Analytics Cloud, that's the final part. That's when you successfully created all your modeling, and then you can start building those stories, those reports in the analytical solution. So be aware that if you want to do a report on exercise 12 and 13, you need everything up until exercise 8. And if you want to do 14, as mentioned before, you need the business layer exercise as well. So that's it about the exercises in a very brief format. And when you access your system, you will get a user ID, which usually starts with GE and then a random number. So your number will definitely be different than the one shown here on the screen. But before talking about too much about slides, let's have a brief look how what you will see on your side. Let me switch over to the browser. And this is the GitHub repository which we provided for you. That's where you will find all the relevant information. So the zip file, as I mentioned, if you click on it, you can actually download it. I think easiest is right mouse click, save link as, and then it's directly downloaded to your machine. You will find the different exercises where you can start and run through the exercise. Accessing the system will look something similar like this. So you see I also have an account with a GE number here, and you might get one or the other pop-up. About notifications, you can simply ignore that. If you go to the space management, you will see similarly on your side one space assigned. You can go into the edit mode, into the space management if you like to explore that. And takes a second here. So on the bottom here, that's where you will find the time data. I already created it. You will find a button there, which is all described in the exercises, but where you generate your time data, which you then subsequently can connect to your data model. If you then switch over to the data builder, I already ran through all the exercises, so you, at the end of your exercise, you will see similar artifacts in your space like I have here on my side. So that was a quick run through of what you will see. As said, important is the GitHub, because that's where you find all the explanation, all the files, all the resources necessary for the exercises. And with that, I'm pretty much already ready to start looking at questions. Not sure if any questions came in, but we can start with the Q&A. Live Q&A. Okay, great. I can already see some questions here. How can we get access to the slides of your presentation? And that's also on the GitHub repository. So I put the slides here. It's a PDF document called DA183-guide. That's where you find pretty much the same slides which I showed you here. That's available there. Then second question, SAP Datasphere has all DI Cloud capabilities, ? When is SAP DI Cloud and on-premise ending? So Datasphere currently doesn't have all DI Cloud capabilities. We're gradually moving over certain capabilities based on the most used use cases by our customers. So that's the approach which we have. And SAP Data Intelligence, I'm not the expert there, so please forgive me about here any deadlines or maintenance windows. I'm sorry, I'm more focusing on the Datasphere part here, so please forgive me if I don't have those dates. Can I have the GitHub link for the exercises? So if you look at the screen here, that's basically on github.com SAP-samples/TechEd23-DA183v. Usually Google, if you Google for TechEd 2023 and then the session ID, which is DA183, you should be able to locate it. That's usually the easiest path. So let's have a look at another one. Does SAP Datasphere provide any API service for external customers? Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you mean for external customers, but let me explain a few things about APIs which we have. So on the one hand side, we have different APIs on different layers of the product. So we have APIs, SQL-based, where you can actually use for data integration, where you can connect external ETL tools, for example. We also have an API or multiple APIs on the consumption side, where you can connect external BI tooling. And since you're talking about customers, I'm not sure, there's also the data marketplace, which we have as part of SAP Datasphere, where we can actually provide data to customers, to partner companies on a public way. So everybody could basically sign up for those data sets, or on a private basis, where you can pick particular people or companies which you want to share data with. So these options are there already today in the product. Okay, Let's have another look. Can you please speak to scenarios if we don't have SAC versus we already have SAC? In other words, what is the prime role of Datasphere? So the prime role of Datasphere is really to build that business data fabric backend. Right? So we connect data which might sit in various places, which might also sit in Datasphere, and provide analytical modeling capabilities for bringing all those data sets together and being able to put BI tool on top, analytics on top, right? That might be SAP Analytics Cloud. That's of course our own tool and our primary solution if you ask us as SAP, but it's also open. We have an open OData interface specifically for external BI tools. Okay. There's another one. What is the data archiving strategy for SAP Datasphere, as there are many clients asking about what happens to historical data, specifically also for BW or BW bridge scenarios? Very good questions. Not sure if you've been there this morning or 12:30 European time. We already had a session about BW and BW bridge in that sense. So currently we plan for the end of the year, so December timeframe, to bring in data tiering optimization into the BW bridge as part of Datasphere. And with that, all the BW people would know what that means. So we can offer that nearline storage capability, which you know from BW or BW for HANA already today, also then in Datasphere or specifically the BW bridge. So that will come, so stay tuned. Okay, another bunch of questions here. What are the possibilities for scheduled extractions from SharePoint files? So basically we have a generic connector for SFTP, so file-based servers, right? For SharePoint specifically, I think that's part of the open connectors framework. That's a bunch of connectors on the BTP. Which can be used, and SharePoint is definitely one of them, or you can use alternatively that generic SFTP connection, which we already both have available. Is the data copied from different sources and stored inside Datasphere? Very good question, because it doesn't have to be copied. You can copy data into Datasphere and persist the data. You could also have a remote access to data, where you access the data only at runtime of your query and leave it where it is. So both options are possible, and we also have a very intelligent switching mechanism where you can start with a remote table, so a virtual access, and then if you see at a later point in time I really want to persist it, you can just flick that switch and actually choose for snapshot replication or for real-time replication. Depends a little bit on the source what we support there. So lots of additional questions coming. Let me just get a sip of water. So, is SAP Datasphere Advanced SAP Analytics Cloud? I wouldn't say that's accurate. So, SAP Analytics Cloud offers some lightweight modeling capabilities, which are good. But if you want to go beyond that and especially merge different data sets from various sources, right, that goes beyond what SAP Analytics Cloud can do. And so we offer those really powerful modeling mechanisms, those analytical capabilities where SAC can then seamlessly integrate and reuse those rich models. So there's a lot more to it than what you know there. Okay. Is the demo system connected to S/4HANA or BW system and also for SAC reporting? Yeah, happy that one question is actually related to the exercise here. And it actually is. So we have an S/4HANA cloud system connected to those, right? So you could play around with that. And also we have a SAP Analytics Cloud system for reporting, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do the reports which we have in the exercises 12, 13 and 14. Right, and what else do we have? What is the role of data intelligence with SAP Datasphere? So data intelligence, we are reusing some of the services from data intelligence. For example, under the hood, that data flow capability of SAP Datasphere, that is behind the scenes a service provided by data intelligence. Also earlier in the year, we included replication flow, which is also built on similar technology, what we have there. So we have a quite close relationship and growing closer together even in the future. Okay, lots of more questions appear. Let me do some checking here. What is persisted views, and does mean views can store data? Yes, in Datasphere, views can store data. That's basically what you know from other databases, maybe as materialized views. So if you build such a view, you have a choice to persist it. It's an option, you don't have to do it, but sometimes it's quite useful. For example, if you want to freeze a certain time frame, right, and keep that data stable for a while instead of always reporting on the latest data. So there are various reasons in order to do that, and it's possible you can even partition those persisted views, so it's a quite rich functionality behind it. Okay, there's another one. Can we expose unified API services or events to other non-SAP apps sitting on public internet securely? That's also a very interesting one because, yeah, events, I guess you go into the direction of event streaming. So maybe Kafka-based data exchange, and that's what we will bring in Q1 next year. So we will provide for the end of the year a capability that we can connect to Kafka, and also that we can provide data to or get data from a Kafka queue, right? So that is something what we have on the roadmap right now. I think it's end of the year or Q1 next year, so coming hopefully soon. Another one here from Datasphere. When can we control the filter push down to remote source system artifacts, original HANA views, which we have mandatory input parameters using input parameters? Input parameters as of today from HANA views are currently not supported. We're currently elaborating how we can best achieve that to even more tightly integrate with your HANA native implementations a lot of our customers have. We are aware of it, we're on it, but I cannot tell you when we will deliver that kind of feature. Sorry for that, but it's not forgotten. We have it on our mind. So what is the certification code for Datasphere? I'm not sure what you mean with the certification code. There, connection scenarios are limited to ODP sources only. This means that you can only get data from subsource. Not sure what this question targets. I mean, we have plenty of source system availabilities, so it's not limited to ODP. We can connect to various other artifacts here and source systems. So we have dedicated S4 connections, so the whole SAP world with classical ECC, but also S4HANA, S4HANA Cloud have direct connections which don't go necessarily through ODP. So there are a lot of more connectivities. Alles klar. So maybe let's pick one last one, data tiering option without BW Bridge. We have that in mind, but I cannot give you a timeline there on that one. Sorry, but that's also something we're working on. And with that, looking at the time, we're already running out of time. So thanks everyone, and have fun with the exercise. So feel free to post something on the GitHub repository, and That's it from my side. Have a nice Friday and see you next time around. Bye-bye.